Hello, my name is Blair Burke, and I decided to do my case study on the student transgressions. This is an uprise in what we are experiencing in my school district, where we are continuously learning and growing as a district, adapting to change, and our main goal is to always support our students and create an inclusive and dynamic learning environment for all of our students and staff. So the brief overview of this case study is that a trans student's gender identity crisis created multiple challenges within a middle school system and the student's parents. The gender identity crisis caused the student body population to bully the student at school in the physical building, as well as through social media via cyberbullying. Challenges were faced in the classroom as a result of students being very unwelcoming and teachers not knowing the appropriate way to handle the situation, which resulted in sending the student to the office. A little bit more background on that is that this student decided to come to school one day in a wig, and it was right off the bat considered unacceptable by the student body population as well as the teachers. This student posted pictures on social media in the wig, which resulted in cyberbullying, and the student being in the classrooms, it caused so much of a disruption that the teacher sent the student to the office. The student was asked to remove the wig, in which the student refused, and then the student was sent home for violating the school's prohibitions of hats and provocative clothing, in which the next day the student returned claiming that it was all just an experiment. But the student had come to school again another day wearing fingernail polish, which resulted in going to the office again. So a meeting was held between the school counselor, and the 8th grade team, where the majority of the teachers were not on board with doing what was best for the student. I believe they sought punishment instead of understanding, which goes against a lot of moral conducts. So because of the majority of teachers being unwelcoming, they were, I don't want to say repulsed, but that's the vibe that I got, that the newer teacher was trying to bring up the idea of creating an inclusive and safe school environment. A lot of the teachers, veteran teachers on this panel of communication, believed that the students should be sent to a school that was more welcoming to kids like him, quote unquote. It was a school that had just opened a gender-neutral bathroom. And I was very repulsed how they made the comment, kids like him. A newer teacher, a first-year teacher that was part of the Teacher America program, argued for this student's protection and safety, saying that, this is a public school, and as educators, it is our duty to protect and support our students, which is the bottom line of being an educator. Your students should be your top priority. Your personal religious beliefs, they should be pushed to the side, and you should fight for what's right for that student. It was said in the case study that the self-presentation of the student at school was unpredictable, and I feel like this has a lot to do with the student feeling, very unwelcomed, not knowing if it was okay for, the specific identity crisis that they were going through. However, the first-year social studies teacher that taught with Teacher America strongly believed in gender rights and as human rights. And she made the statement that they needed to help the student through this identity crisis, that they need our help. And I feel like a lot of students that choose to participate in self-harm, and which can be fatal and lead to suicide, is because, they don't feel like they have an outlet. They feel like no one listens to them, they're not supported, but establishing an environment where they do feel heard and seen and supported could significantly reduce the rates of isolation and worse states like suicide. So in recent bullying data, in 2019, data from 14 states was collected. In this data, it read that 43% of transgender youth have been bullied on school grounds, 29% of transgender youth had attempted suicide, and 21% of gay and lesbian youth had attempted suicide. It is determined that that community of youth, feel unsupported. 60% of LGBT youth did not report incidents. 1/3 who reported incidents said staff did nothing in response. Gay, lesbian, and bisexual youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide, and this information came from Mental Health America this current year. So when it comes to protection for our students and equality for all, these are a few of the statutes that produce protection for our students. You have the FERPA Act, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which protects students' information. The First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, which protects students' freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And then the federal law that bans sex discrimination in schools, which receive federal funding. And like I said before, regardless of one's religious or personal beliefs, it is your duty as an educator to support each student, protect them, and create a safe environment for where they feel accepted. So I took a snippet of the rendition to the U.S. Department of Education this current year. And the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights today issued a notice of interpretation explaining that it will enforce the prohibition on discrimination on the basis of sex to include discrimination based on sexual orientation, discrimination based on gender identity. The amendments of 1972 prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in any education program or activity offered by a recipient of federal financial assistance. Specifically, all students will have access to learn in schools where they thrive in all aspects. We have had, in my school district, we have had a surplus of students that are positively feeling more welcome in expressing their identity. However, there's been a reluctance in some of our staff population that are hesitant of the students' personal beliefs and wants. So we recently had a staff meeting going over pronouns and students' choices, because I'm an art teacher and a lot of these students enter my classroom as a safe space, and they tell me a lot of their teachers aren't accepting of, the pronouns they wish to be referred to as, and that made it very confusing for that student and made them feel like they were not accepted or heard or seen. So I'm glad for the progressive change that is coming forth. So with the reflection piece, as an educator, you adapt to change and you continuously seek improvement and growth. Just like technology is changing, our generations are changing. And you have to grow with it. You have to learn and grow with it. Educators need to push their religious and or personal beliefs to the side and put their students first. The bottom line is your students are your top priority. You are there for their best interest, to help them learn, succeed, and grow, and to build that trust with them. This was an opportunity for the school to strive to make their environment inclusive, respectful, dynamic, and engaged. I believe that times will continuously change, and people need to be aware that these students are protected under laws, and if you are not abiding by the laws, that's going to be fatal to your career. I believe that we should be properly speaking with students and acknowledging their feelings and emotions, and that could reduce the statistics shown of isolation, suicide, and self-harm. Here are a few of my references from the Human Rights Campaign, Mental Health America, National Center for Transgender Equality, and the U.S. Department of Education.